So again, Rebecca Calvert, the Director of Community Engagement from Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, well, hi, everybody. Like Brooke said, my name is Rebecca, and I am the Director of Community Engagement at Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. I have been there over a year now, so time is flying by, but I do have a little about me slide, so let me make sure that I can move forward. Okay. So a little bit about me, as you all know, the Director of Community Engagement. My background is in education and human development. I am trauma informed, and I have a passion for trauma and the brain. My previous experience, I've had teaching at an alternative high school, working in behavioral health settings for Community Health Network, working with wards and fosters through MHS, and a lot of kind of the social work and case management aspects of behavioral health. So some people are like, well, how does that fit in and how does that connect with tree planting and plants and the environment? Because it's so different. I see some smiles, and the obvious answer is that everything is connected, right? The way that we carry trauma and carry our experiences in our bodies and in our brains definitely goes with us as we walk and as we talk and as we engage in our relationships and at work and at school and at play and at rest. And so it's very important that we have this awareness for the way that trauma and the way that adverse life experiences stay with us, and the ways that some communities and the communities that we'll talk about today are continually underserved and continually traumatized based on environment, based on racial and systemic injustice, based on a lot of different things. So as you can now see, we know that certain areas and certain zip codes get more trees and get more plants and have more tree canopy and get more care, and others don't. So as you can see, those two things start to overlap in a very basic and very clear way. And so I get to bring my trauma-informed background and my passion for the brain and mental health and that awareness into the job that I do to figure out how do we engage, and not just engage in a way that we think is best, but engage with communities in a way that is most equitable and most helpful to them. And we can't do that without having those relationships and building those relationships. So we'll get into that in a few, but some other hobbies that I have are hand lettering, obviously plants. If it wasn't on there, kick me out. I love my dog. I love taking naps and riding my bike, and I love going on walks and doing yoga, and I'm actually a newly certified trauma-informed yoga teacher. So ask me more about that when you would like more information. A little bit more about me. I'm a second team All-American collegiate soccer player. It's been many, many years, but soccer is my passion. And my favorite place in Indy is either Eagle Creek or the Cultural Trail Canal intersection. So that's where I live. I live downtown, and I feel like I'm constantly adding, places onto the list of favorites. But that is a little bit about me. Moving forward, KIB, if you are unfamiliar, our vision is to really help people and nature thrive. And so I get to be on the people side and a little bit of nature, and my colleagues, some of them get to be on the nature side and a little bit of people. So it's a really great balance. Again, we engage diverse communities to create vibrant public places for people and nature to thrive. Sounds pretty simple, right? It isn't. It's a pretty difficult task. So KIB's strategic plan that was created back in 2021 is basically through 2024. So this is our current strategic plan that we are working on. And we have 3 key goals that we are working towards. So the first one is to equitably improve access to environmental benefits so people can thrive in nature. The second one is to broaden neighborhood representation and awareness to address community-driven needs. If people don't know about us, then they don't know what we can do for them. They don't know the resources that we can leverage. So we want to make sure that folks know about us. And lastly, to improve our long-term financial sustainability to allow for equitable allocation of KIB resources. So that's a lot of words. We also have pictures, which I personally love. I love getting to talk about the strategic plan. And so this is what is called our KNIT neighborhood map. And we have identified, based on 4 criteria: low tree canopy, high illegal dumping and litter complaints through the Mayor's Action Center, a low KIB program score. And a KIB program score means how many times have you worked with us? How much do you know about us? That's my dog. How long have we worked together? Have we done a lot of things together? So if you have a low program score, that means we haven't really worked together very much. And so we'd like to change that. So let me go over the 4 criteria: low tree canopy, high litter and illegal dumping, low KIB program score, and lastly, just a high socioeconomic vulnerability. And that is based on the Thrive plan of Indianapolis. So taking all 4 of those criteria, adding them up, quantifying them into this wonderfully gradiented, I don't know if that's a word, but gradiented map here that you see. And so the lighter the map area, the less need that is there. That doesn't mean that there's zero need. It doesn't mean that that neighborhood is worthless. We're not going to work with them because they have everything and everything's perfect there. That just means that the darker the gradient, the higher the need based on those 4 criteria. So for example, if one of the lighter shaded areas and one of the darker shaded areas were wanting to apply, let's say for a green space, which I'll talk about in a few, we're going to prioritize a place that's at a darker gradient, not because everybody doesn't deserve a beautiful green space in their area, but we really have shifted our focus to make sure that we are prioritizing the neighborhoods that have most need, which is actually equitable. We're not equal, we're equitable. And so looking down, you see the neighborhoods 1 through 10. Maybe you're familiar with some of them, maybe you're not, but you see them highlighted in neon green. So those are our 10 focus areas that will be split up. That will be split up over the next few years. And this year we've identified Arlington Woods and the Far East Side as our 2 focus areas for 2022. Any quick questions on that? I know that that's a mouthful and an earful and an eyeful. So if you have any quick questions, I'd love to just pause. And then if not, I will keep going to look at more of our programming.
Rebecca, I have a question.
Yeah.
How was this produced?
Yeah, so our ArcGIS analyst, Carl, and our board and our high-level leadership are all folks that got together to look at what's been done in the past, who we've worked with in the past, looking at, for example, the high litter and illegal dumping. The Mayor's Action Center is a place that you can report litter and illegal dumping. And that one, of course, we have to look at how we quantify. We have to look at something. I think the hard part is there are going to be some people in some neighborhoods, for whatever reason, many reasons, that don't trust the city, that aren't going to call, that aren't going to report. Maybe they feel like, well, what's the point? They're not going to, listen to us anyway. Maybe it's, I don't want to leave my information, anything like that. So that one is, of course, a little fluid, but we have to start somewhere. So just a compilation of a lot. Does that help a little bit?
That does. This is a lot, and it's
Yeah.
a great tool. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Here are a few of our 2020 highlights. I'll pick a couple. I'm excited to see what our 2022 highlights are. We didn't really count 2021 as it was still such a heavy pandemic year. And so our volunteer hours were very, very skewed. Even 2020, our volunteer hours, very, very skewed, of course. But we still got a lot of work done, and we couldn't have done it without volunteers, our adopt-a-block captains, and our green space folks, and folks having the ability to do cleanup. So many hours given, over 30,000 volunteer hours in the height of a pandemic. And the beautiful thing about our work is that it is outside. So folks are able to really connect with each other and still have that sense of community outdoors. So a lot of wonderful work was done in 2020. Okay, so now we get into really the meat of engagement with communities. This is my sweet spot. You will see the most and hear the most here. As we get into the native plants, I will give you a baseline. I know you all are more expert in native plants than I am, but this is really where my wheelhouse lies. So looking at the way that we engage communities, we first of all think about communities as neighbors and looking at how we build relationships. And if any of you are in any sort of relationship, which obviously you are, whether it's friendship, family, partner, school, work, play, place of worship, building relationships takes a lot of time and a lot of consistent and intentional energy, and building trust and identifying how do we work together, and what language do you use, and what does that actually mean, and how do I pick that up, and how do I internalize that? How do we communicate together? So many ways that we really want to focus on building relationships. And so there is definitely a tension between a lot of the contracts that we have through the city and through Citizens Energy Group that say KIB is to plant X amount of trees every year. And we, get money for those wonderful contracts, and that's great. But every tree isn't just a tree, an inanimate object going into a random piece of grass that we dig into, right? It's a neighborhood. It has a story. The neighborhood has a story. The community has a story and a voice and opinions and feelings. And a lot of times, and I know that you all may connect with this, a lot of times we've recognized that KIB has done unintentional harm. And so a lot of times when we say, hey, let's go in, we want to go into this neighborhood and we want to help, and we know the benefits and the beauty and all the things that trees do, native trees and native plants, let's go and try to give as many people this beautiful, wonderful opportunity that we can, even if we're going in from a place of good intent, that may not be well received. And again, think of your relationships that you have. Have you ever had a really great, really thought out thing that you wanted to say, and then you say it, you're like, man, it was so clear, everybody got it, my partner got it, my mom got it, whoever, and they come back and they're offended, they're confused, that made no sense, what are you talking about? So there's this whole, communication channel that happens where just because we send out a message doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be received in the exact way that we send it out. And we can add our biases, and we can add in trauma, and we can add in our experiences, and so many layers that shape us, that shape who we are as people, the way that we hear, the way that we feel, the way that we experience. And so that comes really, really into play when we build relationships. And so there's something that we use, which is the tier system. And the tier system is looking at each community individually. So we do not treat our engagement like a one-all approach. So every community, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exactly that way every time. Why? Because there is diversity within community. There are varying ways that each of the 99 unique neighborhoods of Indianapolis operate. And so we can't do with one what we might do with 4 others. And so we really utilize something called the tier system. And so our first tier is, excuse me, our first tier is going to be a neighborhood that we haven't really been, we haven't really built relationships, we haven't really had a lot of experience there. We don't have a lot of contacts. We don't have a lot of buy-in from that community. And so that's going to be our area of focus, our area of greatest need, our area of this is where we have to start from the ground level to build relationships. And so what does that look like? That might mean us attending a neighborhood meeting, connecting with folks there. That might mean us sending out some emails to some key contacts that we have found to try to start creating maybe a Zoom call or having a coffee one-on-one to hear about what it is that the community desires for beautification. And a lot of times folks might think, well, that neighborhood's run down, right? Or, oh, that there's so much trash there. They probably don't care about beautification. However, that is not always the case, that just because we have a certain perception doesn't mean that that is reality. And so when we actually take the time to sit down and slow down and connect and hear and listen, what does it mean for beautification in your neighborhood? And maybe a neighborhood says, well, we don't really not necessarily value litter. We don't want litter here, but we want to focus more on the safety of being able to walk to the grocery store to and from and have safety there. And so there's just lots of different ways that we can misunderstand and make assumptions based on what we see. But when we actually get a chance to sit down and empathetically listen and not simply just say, let me help educate you because you seem like you maybe don't know everything and I hold the knowledge and I hold the keys. When we actually can sit down and slow down, we realize that we are all educators and we are all learners. And so there are folks that we connect with, that we learn from in so many different ways. And we are able to also recognize that each community holds its own assets in the people there. So we don't presume that KIB is going to go in, fix the neighborhood, and become the saviors of the neighborhood and continue moving down the line to like fix and beautify all the communities that we can. The reality is every neighborhood is already doing really difficult and meaningful and tough work. What we do as an organization with immense privilege and immense resources, we can say, let us determine how we leverage our privilege. How do we leverage our resources to you? You take those things. Well, you want us to work with you? Let's do it. You want to do it by yourself? We support you. Go ahead and continue to do the great work that you're doing. So it's really a difference between let us fix you and let you all heal yourselves and continue to heal yourselves. So just because we see something doesn't mean that there isn't a lot more happening under the surface. That equitable engagement aspect that I talked about with the strategic plan, looking at ways, ways to hear the most amount of voices that we can. And the way to do that, and aspect, is a neighborhood association meeting. Great opportunity to connect there. However, I think I heard a statistic of like less than 40% of neighbors are involved in neighborhood association meetings. So if we simply say, we're going to the neighborhood association meeting and we told them all the info, we connected and we're all on the same page and we're going to go plant some wonderful trees on the city right of way in this St. Clair Place neighborhood and everybody is on the same page, great. Well, when we go to canvass the neighborhood, which we typically do about a month before our tree planting, we go to canvass and we may run into some problems. We may run into the fact that a lot of neighbors are like, I have no idea. I had no idea that this was happening. I never knew. I wasn't told. Nobody informed me. And so that's where we try to go canvass. And we have lots of different canvassing materials that are not just saying, oh, here's all the information of what will happen to you. It's more so, here is what is planned, because we are like with these contracts, we have these plans to plant on city right of way native trees. But if, for example, we have a dialogue together and you have something that you're just like, well, I'd rather you not plant on my city right of way in front of my home, then we mark it off and we say, we respect your agency, we respect your no. We're not going to try to sell something, pitch something, try to minimize your concern or maximize the things that we say. We are going to respect the agency of our neighbors to say yes or to say no or to say I'm not sure. And so that goes a little bit into like our tree planting and the ins and outs of that. But overall, canvassing is one way that we try to have a touch with every single neighbor that is in the area of a tree planting. And that's a really big aspect of our engagement at KIB. We plant about 3,000 trees yearly. That's a lot of trees. That's a lot of trees planted on city right-of-way. And that means that that is a lot of trees planted in front of the homes of neighbors. So that means that we want as few rejections as possible. We want the most acceptance and the most yes. And typically that happens when we have a really engaged neighborhood association that really communicates to the masses, even if folks aren't coming to the meeting, really having that opportunity to speak to everyone, hear people out, communicate. And then something else that we do that I lead is our empathetic listening and bias training. And within that training, it's about an hour, and it's something that we require for anybody that canvasses with us, whether that's KIB staff, whether that's community partners, our board has come out to canvas with us. So everybody can try to have that baseline level of what does it mean to empathetically listen? What does it mean to just allow a space, a container for someone to share? And maybe we are like, that's a really silly thought. Like, for example, we've had someone that was like, I don't think I want a tree in front of my yard because somebody's going to be able to hide behind it and I'm not going to be able to see them. So for me, it's like, this tree is not going to get very big. But do I say that? Do I minimize a person's legitimate concern, whether or not I agree with it? Or do I, again, hold that space and hold that container for someone to share a true and valid thought or fear? And so really thinking about what does empathetic listening look like? I have a whole hour presentation that I love to share about empathetic listening and what does it mean to allow for folks to solve their own problems instead of us trying to fix it or minimize it. So lots there. Also with bias. If you are a human, you have bias. Surprise. If you thought maybe I was the one person that's not biased or I have like minimal bias, you probably don't. You're probably just as biased as me and as everybody else because we are humans and our experiences shape our bias. So if you are a human and you have experience, which check, you have bias. So is bias a bad thing? Does it have to be a bad thing? Not really. It can be something where we can try to recognize bias, spot it in ourselves, ask folks to call us out when we do say or act in a way that is biased. And something I heard was maybe we can't fix the bias that comes up, but can we stop long enough to go from our brain out our mouth? So like maybe it pops up in your brain and usually you're like, I have the bias in my head and now I'm spitting it out. It's just this happening really fast. Instead, can we maybe think the bias thing, because we're going to, and say, okay, where does that come from? Okay, what about my story is causing this bias? Like, what about this people group or this experience or this whatever might be causing this? So just challenge ourselves. Because again, I think so many people want to say, oh, I'm not biased, or like, I don't, and it's like, no, it's okay. Like we're just all humans trying to keep it together at this point. So lots and lots of that. If you can't tell, I love talking about empathetic listening and bias. But we also provide education around tree benefits and looking at the ways that trees are going to help to keep our streets cool, which on a day like today and what has been this last few weeks, it's very, very necessary to have a high tree canopy. And so looking at other ways that trees are so beneficial, and that's something that we share when we do canvassing. It's on our website. We try to talk about the benefits a lot. We also provide resources to neighborhoods surrounding self-advocation. So the Mayor's Action Center is what I mentioned. Folks can report their illegal dumping and high litter, but folks can also say, hey, there's a cracked sidewalk, there's a pothole in the alley, there's a light that's out in the street that needs to be fixed. So all of those things, not only do we provide those resources, but if we're going along and canvassing and someone's like, well, I don't really care about the tree thing, but this sidewalk has been cracked for 25 years and my husband, who uses a wheelchair, can't even go and take a walk with me because the sidewalk is so messed up. We will advocate on the behalf of neighbors to say, how can we help support you, and how maybe you all do a report to the Mayor's Action Center and maybe we'll do one too. And we have a lot of connections with the city, obviously. And so we try to use, again, our privilege and our resources to support the communities, even if it doesn't have to do with trees, because life is so much more, right, than trees. Some folks are like, I can't even think about a tree because I'm trying to think about how I'm going to get through to the next day and feed my kids or live in a safe place and worry about being harmed. So, we recognize that life is life, and it's so much more than trees, but we also get to bring that education that trees actually impact and benefit life. And so if folks are willing to hear us, that can be a really good conversation. We also have advisory committees and town halls. So we're working with 7 different sectors of Marion County to have committee members that are from the community that are involved, maybe in schools, places of worship. Maybe they're not the loudest voice at the neighborhood meeting, but they're still involved and they don't really have a place to get to speak their mind as much. This place is for them. And so maybe you know somebody who is on the north side of Indianapolis or on the south side of Indianapolis. I know those are 2 places we are still looking for committee members, but folks who have a lot to say about the ways that the community functions would be great to send in those folks. I'd love to pass them over to our neighborhood engagement program coordinator to connect with them. We also are hosting town halls to provide and leverage resources and materials to communities in ways that are supportive to them. And lastly, cultural competency lunch and learns, and that's internal. So that is a lot of local Indianapolis members, maybe longtime residents. Earring just fell out. It's fine. I only need one anyway. Maybe they're a longtime resident that wants to come and share about Indiana Avenue, maybe, or talk about the way that St. Cloud Place used to be, or just give us that really great historical information that you just can't find on a website. It lives and breathes inside of wonderful residents and people who live in the neighborhood and who know. And so we want to hear from them and learn. And we're also working with the Peace Learning Center to be able to come in and do some trainings for us about racial microaggressions and learning with the Indiana Youth Group about the LGBTQ plus community. So really just trying to do the work of gaining more awareness and knowledge surrounding the communities that we serve, because our communities are diverse and everybody deserves to be heard and connected with and engaged with. Okay, now we are going to look at more cleaning. So a couple different ways that I mentioned earlier that KIB offers, ways to abate litter. One of those ways is our Adopt a Block program. It's a litter abatement program. Free tools are given. So we provide a free litter grabber, we provide gloves and trash bags. And once a year, the couple perks, big perks. Once a year, we give away free native plants. Big perk, I know. And the second perk is that we give away a free native tree. So I mean like a tree, okay? We're not talking like a little bitty, like we're talking a tree, okay? It's an amazing, amazing thing. Trees are really expensive, and I didn't know that coming into this role. And the more I've been around and the more I know, I'm like, that's a really big perk. So if you live in Indianapolis and nobody has adopted your block, we would love to sign you up. Signups are always open. And you can also check and see if your block is adopted and if that person is open to getting some communication, then we will connect the 2 or 3 of you and you all can continue on your merry way to clean up litter. And we also have Adopt a Block for schools and for businesses, so not just residents. And we're working, hopefully, to finalize a partnership with the library to have Adopt a Branch. So fingers crossed, stay tuned for that, but I think that will be really exciting too. Another way that we look at cleaning our neighborhoods is through the Great Indy Cleanup. It is an anti-litter, community-empowered program. Cleanup supplies are provided. We have dumpsters and packer trucks provided. And what this looks like is heavy trash and litter. So we are going to be, okay, let's see. Our last one, we did a Martingale Brightwood cleanup maybe a month ago. And we provided 2 dumpsters and we provided the supplies and the city was there and many community partners from Martingale Brightwood, and we all got together and we picked the route together and we figure out where are those high areas of litter or illegal dumping, and we go around and pick it up. And it's pretty amazing to see the amount of work that a group of people can do in one morning and early afternoon. So if you're interested, please reach out. Again, we prioritize those areas of highest need, but we are always willing to do a cleanup with any neighborhood. So please reach out if you have an area you'd like to clean. So one aspect is cleaner neighborhoods. Now we are looking at greener neighborhoods. So we have a project, or excuse me, a program with AES called the Green Space Program. Some of you might be familiar with it. We work with vacant lots and underused spaces, and we transform them into functional pocket parks and green spaces. So looking at sustainability, we provide financial, technical, and material support to green space project partners. So every year we choose a few projects and we get to accept applications, which just closed yesterday. And we look those over and we have interviews and we decide where are the 3 areas or 2 areas going to be that we're going to focus on for the next year. And that happens every year. We get to do that. And so that means every previous green space, we also provide sustainability materials. We provide financial, technical, material support so that you don't ever have to just do it on your own. And native plants may be of interest to you all. We, in speaking with our senior director of native landscapes, he let me know that there was a strong demand for native plants in Marion County. He gets a lot of questions. Our teams get a lot of questions surrounding native plants and where can I get some? Where can I get more? Where can I get this type? And so we are actually, KIB is partnering with Sullivan's Hardware, and we are going to be selling KIB native plant material at 3 locations starting August of 2022. So very soon, you too can buy KIB native plant material at 3 different locations of Sullivan's. And I can get those specific locations to you all, but that is just another way that we get to work with our partners in the city. I will pause again for any questions that you might have, any brief questions. I do have time at the end. We're about finished, almost finished, so that we can have time to chat and I can hear from you all and stop talking because it's just a lot to hear my voice. Any quick thoughts or questions?
Rebecca, this is all so exciting. Thank you so much. Do you happen to know the Sullivan Hardware locations? Are they all within Indy? I know that they bought like Allisonville Nursery up north also, but.
Yes, they are. Gosh, he told me on the phone and I was like, oh, let me write this down. And then I wrote it down so I can get them to you like tomorrow because we know what they are. But
Okay, and I can
Yes.
send it out to all of our registrants
Yeah.
as well then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah,
Much
of course.
needed.
And if you're a Dr. Block captain, you can for free once a year.
Ooh la la.
Just saying, just saying.
Mhm.
Okay, let's keep moving forward. Here is an example that we love to show of green space. So pre green space program, post green space program. This is back in 2007. So yes, we've been doing green spaces for a long time, even longer than this. But on my left, you see the area that was pre-park and just an underused, underdeveloped space. So great space, just not very appealing, nothing to really do there but walk by it. It looks a little sad and underdeveloped. And so I know that this park specifically was actually created and dedicated in memory of a young girl who was killed in the area. They wanted to do something really special to honor her and her family. And so this park is Page Booker Park, also known as Rivoli Park. But it's just night and day. If I didn't work here, I'd be like, that's not the same space. But that's what we get to do on a daily basis is take these underdeveloped and underutilized spaces and literally transform them into something shining and beautiful and new and exciting and accessible. And so it's a big honor to be able to work for KIB because I feel like we get to make magic. Okay, a couple other ways that we get to green our neighborhoods is through community forestry. And I know that I talked a little bit about the tree plantings and that kind of thing. So I will take a couple moments to go back and talk to you about community forestry. So obviously the goal is to increase the Indianapolis tree canopy. And this is an application-based program. And so if you live in Indy and you think that your street is like, you know, we have a lot of city right of way, but there are just not enough tree canopy here. It's just a strip of a tree lawn and it's so underused, and this could be great to add trees and have shade. Please fill out the application. We can definitely take a look and see if it's plantable space, make sure it's on city right of way, and then we start that engagement process, which I kind of talked about before. So it's a long process, but it is something sometimes folks will maybe apply in 2020, and then this year we're getting to do the planting for various reasons. So KIB takes full responsibility and care for the trees in the city right of way for the first 3 years of that tree's existence on that city right of way. So pruning and watering and mulching and all the things that we do to keep the tree alive, we do for 3 years. And then after that, the city takes responsibility and continues to maintain that tree. And like I mentioned before, we have partnerships with the city and with Citizens Energy Group to work on that tree canopy in Indianapolis. And another way that we green our neighborhoods is first to de-green them, if that makes sense, but we clear invasive plant species. So we get our urban naturalists out and they come in, and we have different groups of volunteers or corporate partners that come out for like custom days of service, clear those invasive plant species, and then install native plants that stabilize riverbanks, provide more food for animals, offer a clearer view of waterways. A lot of times these habitat restorations, when the invasive species are removed, it's like, this is a waterfront, and nobody really knew because it was so overgrown with invasives. So again, more magic that we get to make from the green aspect. Okay, one of the ways that we maintain all the needs of all of our trees throughout the year when they get cared for is through our urban naturalists and our youth tree team. So Urban Naturalists is a young adult employment opportunity for folks who are in kind of a related field in school and college to be able to come and kind of have a stipend pay and do an internship, but they take care of the watering and mulching and pruning and weeding. And then our youth tree team is a 7-week summer job program that also takes care of the trees. It's a job training and readiness, and you get lunch every day. So, I mean, it's a pretty great way to spend your summer. So if you have a kid or a neighbor or a grandkid or, you know, a cousin who might be benefited from this program, please send them our way. Okay, last slide is my face. If you have any questions, please contact me there via email, or we could do it now. So I'm going to be quiet, and I'd love to hear if anyone has any questions.
This is Elizabeth, and I am curious as to how Indianapolis compares to other Midwestern cities in our tree canopy, and also in, are there other organizations like KIB in other Midwestern cities that you partner with or you learn from? Or is Keep Indianapolis Beautiful a unique and amazing organization?
Yeah, that's a great kind of a two-part question. And I can answer the second part, which is what out there is like us. But the first part of the question, I'm going to write down so that I can ask our Department of Native Landscape. So just how does Indy's tree canopy fare in comparison with other Midwestern tree canopies? Is that an appropriate summary of your question? Okay. Great. So I will ask that question and I will send the answer to Brooke along with some other helpful links and stuff. But the second part is Keep Indianapolis Beautiful is an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. So you may know that, you may not know that. But Keep America Beautiful has affiliates in lots and lots and lots of cities around the United States. So there's Keep Oakland Beautiful, and there's Keep Los Angeles Beautiful, there's Keep Phoenix Beautiful. And a really cool thing, a really, really like prideful thing about KIB is that Keep Indianapolis Beautiful is the largest of the affiliates, and it is actually even larger than Keep America Beautiful. So Keep America Beautiful actually looks to Keep Indianapolis Beautiful for how do we do what we do and how do we sustain it and the why and the how. So Indianapolis is amazing. And I am not originally from here. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. So I love being a transplanted Hoosier for a lot of reasons. And that's one of them, because that's amazing. We are a very small organization of about 27 employees, and we are by far the largest. So yes, there are many around like us, but there are not really many around like us.
We are fortunate to have you.
We really are. I'm so fortunate to be on this team. Thanks for the questions, Elizabeth.
Nadine, did you have a question? I think I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just thinking of within our faith group, and we've lived in the Chicago area now, in the Indy area, and they try to do sometimes different, they call them like junior youth spiritual empowerment programs, where part of it is doing service projects. So it just made me think, is there anything that this organization, as far as working with youth, also, if somebody came and said, you know, we were looking for an activity for junior youth, would there be anything appropriate for that age group from about, what is it, like 12 to 15?
Yeah, we love all ages. All of our projects are all ages, except for happy hour reading, and you can probably guess why.
Yes.
That one's 21 and older because we do some reading and then we provide some refreshments. But every other project that we have, so our habitat restorations and our tree plantings and our litter cleanups and our green space work days, all of that is all ages. We just ask that, I think if you are like 14 or younger, that you have an adult present with you.
Yes.
But other than that, the more the merrier, the younger the better, the older the better. Like, we love everybody to come. So Yes.
So do you have a list of those projects like going out for the summer? So I could, Hilo and I, we can refer it to people that might have some youth or junior youth they're
Yeah.
working with
Yeah, I
that are
can
looking
send
for,
you.
you know, you're looking, the organ, you know, the Keep Indie Beautiful's looking for across the summer.
Yeah, so I can again send Brooke a link to our project calendar. And on the project calendar, you can see what's happening month to month and decide, oh, I really want to go to this litter cleanup. So that's mostly litter cleanup and green space work days are what's happening in the summertime. Our tree planting seasons are spring and fall. So you just missed out. Our last tree planting was May 21st. But we will start up again in September with tree plantings. And so, yeah, there's plenty to do. And we pretty much go all year round. So for the most part, you can always find something to do with us.
One follow-up question. So when you give a list and say, okay, we're going to be doing these projects, do you give it to like what kind of, if we're looking for, let's say, junior youth in the east side versus the northwest side, do these projects usually indicate what, you know, part of Indy?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yep. And so you can find out what needs to be done, how many trees need to be planted, how many volunteers are needed, what area the project's going to be in, the address, the where the restrooms are. I mean, all the things that you'll find on our project calendar.
Okay, and thank you for the person that just shared on chat, the link to the site. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, if you look in the chat, Rebecca, can you tell me again when KIB started in Indy?
Yes, it was about 40 years ago. So KIB has been around about 40 years. Yeah, a long time.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of programming you guys have going on.
Yes.
Yes,
There's always a lot to do at KIB.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, yeah, we need that canopy. So 3,000
Yes.
trees a year is amazing. Please thank your whole team for us.
I definitely will.
Yeah,
They're pretty magical.
I'd say so. Absolutely. All right,
I have
folks.
one more question. Could I ask one more question?
Please.
Sorry. So the plants that will be available through Sullivan's,
Yes.
does that money come right back to KIB? Is that's like a fundraiser for KIB when you purchase plants?
Yes. I want to say that there's a percentage that comes back to us. I don't know that it's 100%. I could also be super unaware and it is 100%. So I'm going to write that down too and get that answer to Brooke as well.
And Rebecca, Indiana Native Plant Society has Grow Indiana Natives, which lists resources for native plants. So we probably want to be sure to get your locations on the website too.
Great.
And I'd be happy to share with our Central Chapter's Facebook group as well. They'll be excited to hear we have new resources.
Yes, absolutely. I can definitely do that.
So I have one last question, Polly here. Who does your canvassing for you?
Great question. This space goes to canvassing, as well as our engagement team, as well as other employees of KIB, community partners that might live in the neighborhood. We love to get localized volunteers and really activate the community that we're in to partner with us and go and talk to neighbors, especially if we have great relationships and great buy-in with them. They go and talk to their own neighbors. It's like, listen, I live here. I want a tree. I want 2 trees. Tell me why you don't want a tree. And it's a great way to have the neighbors connect. But our board members come canvassing with us, employees, specifically our engagement team, community partners, and local residents. So are you interested in coming canvassing with us, Polly?
Sure, one of these days.
Okay, no problem. We would love to have you.
And hey, Rebecca, also, I want to
Yeah.
let you know at Extension, we have staff that are community wellness coordinators. And
Okay.
they work in different areas around the city. And I know you were maybe looking for some representatives from the south side. And I know we have one of our CWCs is very active down there. So if you would like to share with me, like any openings, job descriptions, whatever, I'm happy to share with our community wellness coordinators who are really out in the community.
That sounds great. Yeah, we just have another opening for a community forestry coordinator. So I will definitely share the information to you about that, and then also the information about our advisory committees, because that might be a great connection.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Rebecca, I just cannot tell you how impressed I am. Thank you for everything that you shared with us tonight. And that you shared so well with us. It's really exciting work that you guys are doing. It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
I am going to share the recording when we have a link ready with all of the register. We had a lot more people registered than attended, which seems to be a trend these days, this month particularly. So I'll be sharing that with them, and as well as my office. And would it be okay with you if I share this on our Facebook group?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you got as much as I did out of this.
Thanks, you guys.
Everything else, and everybody, happy equinox today. Enjoy the longest day of the year. Or close to it. And have a good rest of your season. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.